and we learn through tests on the ground and in flight. That will continue as we push the limits of exploration and our destination and the complexity of those missions. The challenges are also solved at a rate that is measured by safety and measured by delivery of hardware from our contractors and partners. The team we have, both NASA and contractor, is incredible. That's evidenced to me by our performance on Artemis 1, the disposition of the heat shield, and all the development that is going on across the country and, frankly, across the world. And I am grateful for each one of those folks. With that, let me turn it over to the commander of the Artemis 2 mission, Reed Wiseman.
Thanks, Jim. For those of you who are just sitting here, I want you all to know we like to keep our associate administrator well flanked by astronauts, and I think we've done a good job today. I'm the lucky one who gets to be here, but I am definitely speaking for our crew, for Victor, Christina, Jeremy, our two backups, Jenny Gibbons from the Canadian Space Agency and Andre Douglas from NASA. First and foremost, I want to thank the media for being here. This is the great part of our nation, is that you all get to talk to us and get to think and freedom of speech and get to report on the state of our program. Thanks for your interest in Artemis, and thanks for getting the word out to the general public. We really do appreciate the efforts. I also want to thank the NASA leadership team. I'll echo what Pam was saying, was sometimes in space, delays are agonizing and slowing down is agonizing, and it's not what we like to do. But from the crew perspective, the thing that we most asked our leadership for after Artemis 1 was root cause of the ablation of the heat shield. And we took the time. This was very, very open process. The crew certainly never felt like there was a door closed to us. We never saw any hidden data. It was all open. It was all open discussion. We had an independent review team with a lot of outside experts and internal experts to look at this. So we really appreciate the willingness to take the risk to actually slow down and understand root cause, determine the path forward, corrective action for Artemis 2 and Artemis 3, so that when Victor, Christina, Jeremy, and I launch and land after a successful Artemis 2, we will look to Artemis 3 to carry the torch forward and to put humans back on the moon, and that is really our ultimate objective. Quick story time before I hand it over to Amit. The folks in the room that don't get to get out the way the crew gets to get out. In November, I was at Kennedy Space Center with our crew, all four of us. It was Victor, Christina, Jeremy, and myself. And we were in the vehicle assembly building, and just when you walk into that building and see the boosters, see the core stage, see the American men and women that are putting this vehicle together, the excitement that is in there, the scale, it is absolutely inspiring just to see the scale of what is going on. The thing that we walked away from was the sense that, you know, we are in simulators all the time. We see PowerPoint slides, there's meetings all the time at NASA, but we started to feel this is absolutely real, and it is awesome. While we were there, we were in the airport in Orlando coming home, and Jeremy Hansen, our Canadian astronaut on the crew, pulled out his cell phone, and we watched Starship 6 test flight from Boca Chica. And it was in that moment for me, as a kid who was born after Apollo, that moment in the Orlando airport, I had just seen our booster. I had just seen the Orion spacecraft. I'm now watching Starship 6 test flight. All the elements are there for humans on the moon, and all the elements are there to push us onto Mars in the very near future. And I felt it in my soul. I felt it and I believed it. And I want to thank our administration. I want to thank our workforce, because they are the ones that are making it happen, and the public who are supporting us. So thank you. With that, I'll hand it over to Amit.
So Amit will be on the screens for those in the room. Just give us a second.
Hello, everyone. Just quickly, can you all hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you, Amit.
Some technical difficulties here. Okay, thank you. Let's see, I can't top Tano. I'm going to just start with an outline of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to explain the approach that we're taking as part of the program office, detail the findings related to the heat shield, talk through some of the other issues that are affecting the performance of the integration at KSC, and talk about where we're headed. Congress authorized the Moon to Mars Program Office about 18 months ago. Since then, we've had the advantage to actually think about the risk of the integrated program from a mission basis, not just from the capability basis. And that's essential to ensure that we're on a safe path towards long-term exploration. And it also helps us guarantee that the 6 programs under the office, Gateway, HLS, the Human Landing System, EVA and Surface Mobility, the Space Launch System, Orion, as well as the Exploration Ground Systems program are integrated, are looking downfield together, and are trying to proceed in a rigorous test-based approach towards achieving mission objectives. This has been a really exciting time for these teams to come together, and what we do know is that our assessments have led us to an understanding that our current baseline plan has testing gaps. It needs to be augmented. Each mission needs to be augmented, and we need to think about each one of those missions in a unique way, and we're going to do that. And the heat shield investigation was an interesting stimulus for that understanding. So again, I'm not going to talk about the rigor that went into the process. Pam said that really well. I do think it's important to recognize, though, that we tried very hard to let the team that was doing the work stay isolated from schedule pressure, from the eyes of those that are watching, to make sure that we're making the right progress. It is very easy for that pressure to change your perception, your engineering judgment, your understanding of technical truth. And so this is a little bit why we've been careful about discussing this topic. But let's talk about what we saw in Artemis 1. As was mentioned, we for the first time conducted a skip re-entry of a heat shield that's 16 feet in diameter. It interfaced with the atmosphere at 32 times the speed of sound. It endured atmospheric entry, heating and velocities and aerothermal loads over 3,000 nautical miles of a downtrack, and it landed within 2 miles of the USS Portland. That was a phenomenal achievement. If you think about the specified design of the integrated system from an entry guidance and from a thermal load performance. However, as is mentioned before, we saw variations in the condition of the heat shield, in which the char layer that protects Orion broke off in ways we did not expect. We observed about 100 spots across the heat shield where that phenomenon occurred. Charring is normal ablator behavior during entry. The way that energy is dissipated, all of the energy we put into the spacecraft at launch has to be reduced so we have a safe and nominal landing. Most of that energy when we enter the atmosphere at that speed is rejected by the radiative shock that occurs in front of the vehicle as it's transiting through the atmosphere. Some of that is rejected via convection through the outer layer of the heat shield. It is normal behavior for the ablator that it's built on Orion to char. The heat shield however, is not designed to liberate those pieces of char. Instead, a char layer and an ablator is supposed to recede gradually so the underlying material insulates the spacecraft from the high heat flux we experience during entry. As I mentioned, the performance was excellent, but that char loss is outside of the design intent. Now, just because our bond line temperatures were within 4 factors of safety, just because our guidance was right down the middle, just because we had the right amount of virgin abcoat material left, it is tempting to believe that means the spacecraft performed the right thing and it performed it with margin. But everything we've learned in our history tells us that's not what margin means. We have to have an absolute technical understanding of the transport and liberation phenomena that led to that loss of char, and so that is why we took the level of steps that we did to analyze this issue. So the Orion program stood up heat shield Tiger team to determine root cause corrective actions and to start thinking about what that technical truth needs to be. That team was a multidisciplinary team of experts in TPS systems, aerothermal dynamics, thermal testing analysis, stress analysis, material test, all across the board. And as we continued throughout the investigation, we brought in experts from the Department of Defense, from the Department of Energy, across industries across the United States and even internationally to help us understand that we were doing the ablator behavior, because this is cutting edge technology in terms of the way we're exposing these environments to make sure that we were using the best of what the country could offer to analyze this. So what I'll say first of all is the Tiger team, which was commissioned again by the Orion program manager, Howard Hugh, deserves a lot of credit for the rigor he applied was led by Luis Saucedo, who conducted what in my estimation, in the 20 years I've been in the agency, is one of the most magnificent pieces of engineering analysis that I have been a part of. Their work was substantial, significant, and extremely impressive. They started with a fault tree assessment that led directly to enabling advances, not just in understanding of the interactions of the vehicle's material loss properties and its interaction with the aerothermal environment, but also invented and innovated new test and non-destructive evaluation techniques for us to be able to actually observe this phenomenon in real time in the arc jets and the upgrades to the arc jets that we created as part of this investigation. We also use facilities at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and all over the country to help us analyze this phenomenon. So again, I commend the team for their work, but again, because we're NASA, we wanted to make sure we're close to the problem, that we were being extremely rigorous. We brought an independent team of experts in, as Pam mentioned, led by Paul Hill, who did a phenomenal job. He brought in experts from industry, from the Department of Energy, all over the country to also give us confidence that we were doing the right things. Paul right now serves as a key member of the Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel. And of course, as those of you that know, he also led the agency's return to flight efforts after the Columbia accident. So the team provided us analysis, and again, the concurrence on the root cause is unanimous. So fundamentally, just as Pam said, the issue is that during reentry, as I mentioned, the ablative material has to produce those gases under pyrolysis. And pyrolysis is just burning without oxygen. We learned that as part of that reaction, the permeability of the abcoat material is essential. And this is something that did not necessarily produce itself in our reconstruction of the data until we looked at the regions where the recession of that char layer was arrested, and that the recession was arrested during the dwell time during the skip reentry. During that period, the production of those gases was higher than the permeability could tolerate, and so as a result, a pressure differential was created. That pressure led to cracks in plane with the outer mold line of the vehicle, and as in certain areas of the vehicle where those cracks propagated to the bond line of the blocks, the char was then liberated. We were able to determine this correlation and connection between that permeability, because actually during Artemis 1, it turns out that some small percentage of the Artemis 1 heat shield actually exhibited a phenomenon of permeability that we were actually shooting for now in our corrective action, but the acreage of the heat shield was not uniform in terms of its permeability. There were places where it was actually more permeable than the rest, a small percentage, and in those places we did not witness in-plane cracking, and that was the key clue for us. So we're able to take that and then reproduce in multiple different environments and multiple different facilities the generation of those cracks in the environment under which those cracks would exist. So our path forward is pretty clear. We know, because of the test program that we went in, that we executed, we know how to produce abcoat with the desired permeability standards. We have sized up all of our production capability in order to quickly produce heat shields as fast as we can. In fact, we have 50% improvement in that production rate. But it's still going to take us a little bit of time to finish the qualification of that material. That should be ready to go here sometime this year. But where we sit today, we understand, because we understand very fully not only the interaction of the material and the environment, but also the integrated interaction and how it performs in the spacecraft. So we've decided that in order to enhance our learning for Artemis 2 as quickly as we can, because there's nothing like flying in the flight environment to learn everything that you need to learn about how these systems will perform, that if we can either change the material to mitigate the issue, or we can change the environment to mitigate the issue. And for Artemis 2, because of the nature of the mission, which right now the mode we're using is equatorial free return, we can safely and with high degrees of success control that entry environment. And so that's the plan we're going to proceed along. Just quickly, we can talk if there's more questions. We're going to push out to everybody a detailed write-up of this understanding. But I do want to talk a little bit about what this means for us in terms of the execution of the mission. Of course, it's going to take us a little bit of time to go through the disposition of some of these issues. We are also experiencing a handful of issues in the performance and integration of the vehicle. We have, as I mentioned to this community back at the beginning of the year, we have had some issues with the electrical system on the vehicle, specifically when the vehicle is enduring an abort scenario. In some of those cases, in this particular case for Artemis 2, the abort system on the spacecraft is active. So we need to make sure that the vehicle will have maximum capacity during those abort scenarios. We found an issue with the batteries in particular, that they were not able to tolerate the abort environment. It's pretty severe, especially when you do an abort induced by the launch abort system. So we had to fix those batteries. And we've been working on that fix for a while. We were able to completely change the way that they're mounted, that they're mechanically secured. And we have been able to complete that fix, qualify that fix. It was excellent work by the team at Eagle Pitcher in Joplin, Missouri that did that for us. It was also it was difficult for them to do it because, as was mentioned earlier, our supply chains in some of these critical areas are extremely fragile. And so we had some difficulty finding very high reliability components and in order to complete that build. But the team there was excellent, and Eagle Pitcher has a long history with us. In fact, those of you that recall, the Eagle Pitcher built the batteries that were allowed the Apollo 13 crew to be able to survive during their transit when we lost the fuel cells in that mission. The other thing we've been working on significantly is the life support system on the spacecraft. You know, we are in the ONC at